Hi there, it's Tammy Whitten from WomenManagingStress.com again with part 2 of our series on the power of positive parenting. Now in this segment we're going to delve into one of the hardest parts of parenting, which is dealing with, you guessed it, the kids' behaviors. So before we go into the next part, I want you to think a bit about what is the worst thing your kids have done. Did they throw a fit in the grocery store because they wanted a certain kind of cereal? Did they run out in the middle of the living room when you had company with tampons and said, "Hey, Mommy, what's this?" Maybe they even tried to brush their teeth with them. What stories have happened to your friends, and what things have happened to you that you just said, there is no way I could ever be prepared for this? Some of them may be funny, and some of those situations may have made you want to pull out your hair. I can think of a few situations that we've dealt with. One where the kid actually took his diaper off and smeared poop all over the wall in the crib and everything else right as the Thanksgiving dinner guests were arriving. There's another story of a family I worked with where the little boy, he was 2 at the time, and he got mad at his sister. She was about 6 or 7, so he peed on her head. And then there's stories of kids who were suspended on their second day of kindergarten from school. So there's all kinds of things that happen, and yes, these are true stories. So whatever you've got, hopefully you feel like you're not alone. So let's get started talking about some of those behaviors and those 5 core principles that we're going to delve into in the other part of our series and spend more time talking about so you can really put them into action. So let me pull up the slides here and we'll make it happen. All right, so what is so challenging? Why is it that people that we are 5 times bigger than, why is it that they can make us go to our knees sometimes and wonder how in the world to do things? One thing to keep in mind, and even though it seems like a duh, some misbehavior is normal. For one, you have to have some story that you can tell the family so everyone laughs and you can embarrass your kids later. But one of the biggest things that we set ourselves up for is we compare our kids at their worst to your friends and family and neighbors' kids at their best. So you're taking your kid when he's jumping on the couch and he's nervous about going to the doctor and he's trying to get away from you, and you're comparing it to your sister's kids when they're dressed up in their Easter bonnets to go to church on that Sunday. And let's make sure we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to Tonka trucks. Keeping in mind that some misbehavior is normal makes a difference. However, in that moment, it's hard to say, is this normal or is this one of those things where my expectations are a little too high? Some discipline problems are inevitable. It's impossible to be perfect and to prevent everything that happens all the time. Managing everyday problems actually can help us prevent some of the bigger ones, and the younger the better. So don't think, I've already flubbed the dub, my kid's 6. There's still things that we can do. So this series is about positive parenting, and there's a lot of parenting kind of fads and things that hit the floor. So what exactly is positive parenting? What we do in this type of approach is we look at what is normal child development, and we take, all right, is it normal to expect a 2-year-old to be able to sit through an entire meeting I have to go to? Well, no, it's hard enough for me as an adult to sit through certain meetings. So we take the facts that we know and we combine them with how to deal with things and how to prevent them in very practical ways. This approach also helps us to build really strong relationships, to communicate well with each other. We all talk about, by the time my kids are teens and are grown, I want them to respect me and feel like they can come back and talk to me. It also emphasizes the positive. We talk a lot about constructive criticism, but at the end of the day, none of us really like to be criticized in any shape, form, or fashion, and that includes your kids too. We also plan ahead to prevent as many of these things as we've said. Even though there might still be one that pops in as a surprise, we're going to make every day go a lot smoother instead of having every day feel like we're constantly just going over a bunch of speed bumps one after another. And we're also going to use everyday situations that come along to help create opportunities to learn and grow together. So, how does this actually help our kids? Are we spoiling them? Are we giving them their way? It helps them to develop skills. They do better at school. They build friendships with other children and even older peers, such as adults or neighbors. It helps them to feel good about themselves. They have fewer problems both with how they feel and with how they act. And they're less likely to do all the things that you don't want your kids to do, or maybe you're hoping they don't find out that you might have done at some point in time. This helps set them up for that success. Now, you might be thinking, does this mean I have to give up me in order to do this? No, there's a lot of great benefits for you too. For one thing, it helps you to feel confident as you go forward in your parenting. You're depressed less. This is one of the things that we sometimes don't talk about in terms of parenting our kids. How many times have you heard everybody say, oh yeah, sign me up, I'm depressed. Doing this parenting thing is pretty hard and I feel like I'm always failing and never on top of things. It's something we can all relate to feeling, but we don't talk about it a lot. So that's a great side effect of this. Of course, less stress goes along hand in hand. We don't have as much conflict with our partners, whether you're married or not, or you're in other relationships. It doesn't matter what your structure is, you're going to have less conflict, and you're going to have less conflict with your kids. So what's not to love about this? What we do when we're helping these kids develop skills, that was one of the benefits, is we're going to teach them to communicate well, both with physical communication and with words and with interactions with others. We're going to help them manage their feelings so that they're not the subject of a commercial. There was one I saw from another country with a kid in a grocery store who was just screaming for candy over and over and over, no matter what the poor parent did. So we're going to prevent those things from happening. We're also going to help them to be independent. And this is one that some parents don't think about. And that's because, in a way, we want our kids to want us. We want them to need us and to love us. But we also want them to be independent so that every time they're hungry or thirsty, they don't come to you and say, Mom, I'm hungry, go fix me a snack. They're able to do it for themselves. And we're able to teach them some problem-solving skills. So here's an overview of these 5 principles that we're going to dive into in these other parts. And these are going to be the concepts that we use to really make it all come together. This first one might seem a little like, okay, of course I want a safe environment. Maybe some of the things I want to provide for them that are interesting I can't afford, but yeah, I'm not going to sign them up and say, go play in the dumpsters. When kids don't have something to do that interests them, that's one of the big things that they do that gets them in trouble. We're also going to talk about having a positive learning environment. Again, sometimes having things that challenge them a little bit is going to hold their interest longer than something that they've already done 1,000 times and mastered. Assertive discipline is kind of one of those tricky terms. Assertive discipline is where we show kindness and respect for ourselves and the children. It doesn't mean being domineering drill sergeant by any means in everything that you say, but it also doesn't mean letting them create all the rules. It's what I call the Goldilocks, right in the middle. Not too hard, not too soft, just right approach. We're also going to work on having realistic expectations. And if I'm being honest here, this is one of the things that sometimes I find when I'm tired or hungry or really, really sleepy or overwhelmed with things. Sometimes my realistic expectations are the first thing that goes out the window because I fail to remember they're just as hungry as I am, so we're all a little cranky right now. And another one of these 5 core principles is going to be taking care of yourself as a parent. And that one can be really, really challenging sometimes because it's not that you don't want to do it, it's that you're like, how in the world do I have time for it? So join us for the next parts in our seminar series and you will find out exactly how to put these things into practice. Talk to you soon.